Morning everybody, and thanks for stopping by. I've had some questions about the baffle plate in my Oklahoma Joe's Highland offset smoker. It's also called a tuning plate or heat management system. I just call it baffle plate. That's the term that I first heard used for it. So today I decided I was going to pull it out and we'll take a closer look at it. I'm going to clear away the grates, the water pans, and give us access to the baffle plate. Now I just cleaned this smoker the other day. I did a video on it, you might have seen. So the baffle plate's clean. It's not pristine, it's still dirty, so when I lift it out it's going to be a little gunky. That's why I have my gunky gloves on, and get it on a table so we can look at it. I'm going to remove the clips first. Remove the end plate furthest away from the firebox. And the main part that's closest to the firebox. And this one's sometimes a little tricky to get out. Okay, so this is the full baffle plate system. You'll notice there are two parts, major parts, after it's already been assembled. And it holds together with these two clips that go through these holes right here. And all that's meant to do is keep it from sliding apart in the chamber. These, as I mentioned in my cleaning video, also come with nuts that go on the bottom of these clips right here. But you have to tighten them from underneath, which I don't really understand how to do in a simple way. And it's really not necessary. These can just rest in there and they lock it together. So if you do get this system, I would recommend not putting the bolts on the bottom. I can't see any reason you need to. This just slides in there and holds them together. So let's set these aside. So as you can see, this side over here is closest to the firebox. The heat comes through, and in these holes is released in increasing amounts. So closest to the firebox, which would normally be the hottest part of your cooker, this tempers it and lowers it a bit, allowing more heat on the far side. And I have found that this will keep a fairly consistent temperature across the entire cook chamber. I rarely get a difference of more than 5 to 10 degrees from side to side, and I have no problem maintaining that. If you watched my Oklahoma Joe's Highland offset smoker cleaning video, you'll notice I made a point of talking about these holes and making sure that they're clean and open. That's one of the reasons to do a cleaning periodically, because you want that heat to be able to get up through. If these are clogged, the heat's just going to keep traveling. It will radiate through the steel, don't get me wrong, but these holes are meant to let that and the smoke up. So it's important to keep these clean. Okay, now this part of the baffle plate is what I like to call the little wings. These come off of the part that is closest to the firebox and help seal it against the edge of the cooking chamber where it meets the firebox. It's connected with two bolts, and if you'll notice at the very bottom here, there's a little gouge or a little cutout. If you watch the video that I did covering the modifications I did to my Oklahoma Joe's Highland smoker, I talked about that cutting that little corner off, because normally this was a 90 degree. That was a straight 90. If I hadn't cut that off, it would have been impossible for it to sit flush. There's a little bit of a lip at the end of the cook chamber where the end is welded onto the barrel, the body. And if this cutout is not there, this hits that lip, this entire edge down at the bottom, and will not allow a tight seal here. It leaves about an 1/8 of an inch to a 1/4 inch gap. So by cutting off the corner of both of these little wings, there's one on each side of this, it allows it to sit flush. Now on the upper lip of the part that mates to the firebox end, there are these two holes. Now these holes were not there. I cut these holes. These holes allow the two top bolts, which connect the firebox to the cooking chamber, to pass through. If these weren't here, it would butt up against this and would leave about an 1/8 of an inch to a 1/4 inch gap. The bolts technically should sit lower down here, but I don't know if it's a custom fabricating issue or something. They're higher, and maybe they're not on yours. Maybe yours is built slightly differently, but in mine they're too high, so I had to cut these two holes to allow those bolts to pass through, and now I get a good clean full seal on this edge. Now I think I might have mentioned it, but there is a little bit of a trickiness to getting this end of the baffle plate back in because of these lips here which hold your cooking grates, but it is doable. What I like to do is come in at an angle so the very far corner comes past the end of that lip for the cooking grates, and then this just slides down in. You can see hopefully right down here is where those bolts are allowed to, not fully pass through, but it gives them some relief here so that they're not pushing on this, and this sits right virtually flush against the edge of the cook chamber and the firebox where it mates. Now we're just going to put the second part of our baffle plate back in, the one that's furthest away from the firebox. Line it up, replace the clips. And again, you'll see these clips, all they do is keep this from sliding down, which I don't even know why they would anyway, but there. You don't really need the nuts on the underside of those bolts. And we'll just get our cooker back together. So I hope that was helpful for you in kind of understanding what the baffle plate system is if you haven't really seen one before. I purchased that from, I believe it was called barbecuesmokermods.com. It was specific to the Oklahoma Joe's Highland. I don't know if it's the same for the Longhorn. It might be a little bit longer. But they make them for different cookers, not just Oklahoma Joe's. So you can go there and look. And I paid, I believe it was $89.95 for this one. And I have to say, it was worth it. It was one of the better mods that I did. It's really evened out the temp in my cooker and helped me keep it that way through a long cook especially. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again soon.